The stadium was trembling, not from an earthquake, but from emotion, from the collective heartbeat of thousands who had waited years for this very moment. The night sky above Guadalajara glowed crimson, fireworks mixing with tears, and chants of Chicharito. Chicharito, echoing like an anthem from heaven itself. No one could have written a story like this. Not Hollywood, not Netflix, only football could. For months, rumors had swirled. Could Javier, Chicharito, Hernandez really return home? The prodigal son who had left Chivas as a dreamer, conquered Manchester United, Real Madrid, and the world, would he dare come back where it all began? Some said he was too old. Some said he was done. But tonight, he silenced every doubt with one tearful strike that shook an entire nation. It was minute 87. The score stood 3-2. The tension was unbearable. Rayados had been the better team for much of the match, faster, younger, hungrier. But football isn't always about strength. Sometimes, it's about soul. And Chicharito still had plenty of that left. He stood near the penalty box, gasping for air, sweat dripping down his forehead. His legs felt heavy, his heart raced. But inside him burned something that no injury, no critic, no passing year could extinguish: pride. The ball came in from the right, a low, curling cross that seemed destined for no one. The defenders hesitated, and in that split second of hesitation, the old instincts kicked in. Chicharito darted forward, as if time itself had paused for him. One touch, one shot, one goal, and the world stopped. The roar that followed wasn't just a cheer, it was an explosion of memory. Every fan in that stadium remembered where they were when Chicharito first scored for Chivas years ago. They remembered the teenager with the baby face and the unstoppable grin. And now, here he was, older, scarred, emotional, on his knees, crying, kissing the badge on his chest. The cameras zoomed in. Tears streamed down his face. His teammates surrounded him, lifting him high. Even the Rayados players applauded quietly, they knew what this meant. This wasn't just a goal. It was redemption. You could see his lips trembling as he looked up toward the sky. Maybe he was thanking his family. Maybe he was thanking fate. Or maybe he was thanking football, the cruel, beautiful game that had taken him across continents and then brought him home again. In the stands, there were fathers crying next to their sons. Old men who'd watched his grandfather, Chicharito, play decades ago. Women holding homemade banners that read, "Welcome home, our hero." The sound of that chant, Chicharito, rolled across the field like thunder. The fans weren't just celebrating a goal. They were celebrating a journey. He walked back to the center circle, wiping his tears, but the camera caught something, a smile. The same boyish, mischievous smile that once lit up Old Trafford and the Bernabeu. It was as if time had rewound, just for a moment. The referee blew the final whistle moments later. Chivas had done it, 4-2, victory secured. But nobody was talking about the score. Everyone was talking about the story. The return, the redemption, the resurrection. As the crowd sang and fireworks burst into the night sky, Chicharito stayed on the pitch, alone. He kneeled down, touched the grass, and whispered something only he could hear. Maybe it was, "Gracias." Maybe it was, "I'm home." Because that's what this night was, homecoming. The press would later call it, the tearful goal. But that doesn't even begin to capture it. This wasn't just about a football match. It was about legacy, identity, and the unbreakable bond between a man and his roots. He had left a boy, and returned a legend. And for the fans of Chivas, it felt like the circle had finally closed. The years of struggle, heartbreak, near misses, all of it was washed away by that single strike. When he walked off the field, the crowd didn't just cheer. They stood. Every single person, from the youngest child to the oldest abuela, stood in respect. Because they knew, they had just witnessed history. Reporters ran toward him, microphones ready, cameras flashing. But before he spoke, he took a long breath, looked straight into the lens, and said something simple. "This is for my people. For everyone who never stopped believing." And just like that, he smiled again, the Chicharito smile the world had missed for too long. That night, in homes across Mexico, fans replayed the goal over and over again. On social media, the clip spread like wildfire. Commentators called it the most emotional goal in modern Liga MX. Kids whispered that they wanted to be like him. Even rivals admitted it was beautiful. But beyond all the noise, the hashtags, and the replays, there was something deeper. A truth about football itself, that sometimes, the game gives you moments that feel bigger than trophies. Moments that remind you why you fell in love with it in the first place. As the stadium emptied and the floodlights dimmed, the echo of that chant still lingered in the night air. Chicharito, Chicharito. And somewhere in that sound, between the tears, the pride, and the memories, was a message. No matter how far you go, no matter how high you climb, your heart always knows where home is. He didn't just score a goal. He closed a story that began years ago with a dream and a smile. And as he walked down that tunnel, with the Chivas badge pressed close to his heart, one thing was certain. This wasn't the end. It was the most beautiful beginning imaginable, for him, for his club, and for every soul who believes that dreams, no matter how far they drift, always find their way back home.